2 weeks till power tour, a little less at this point. And surprise, surprise, because of last week with just timing of everything, we're doing a twofer. So it's going to be 2 weeks worth in one, and we're going to be trying to wrap up the Mustang. So where we left off not too long ago to you in TV land, we are replacing the calipers just to make sure we get a good solid connection on that bleeder. So this one here, again, the caliper mounts behind the front axle. So when we're putting the new one on, that bleeder screw always goes on top, or the valve, I should say, not screw. But yeah, for some reason we're having issues getting these banjo bolts to tighten on the other one. So we'll get that done, and then we'll get this other connection taken care of behind the valve cover. And then once we have those done, theoretically we'll have a brake pedal. I'm starting to split out the exhaust H pipe. You can see on this side, it's been flattened, and you can see a little bit of a welding piece there, a little stick. So yeah, this has definitely been modified, so it does not surprise me now that I was having such issues getting it to line up and fit. So once we get the brakes done, we'll get underneath there, try and at least tie up this part of the exhaust, and then we will get on to fuel. And hopefully, we're pretty close to running substantially after that. So we've got the calipers replaced on both sides, and then found out where a lot of my leaking was coming from is when we initially set all this up. I just had everything kind of hand tightened just to make sure the routing, everything was okay, and apparently I had left them all hand tight. So a lot of our extra leaks wasn't anything bad, just had to be cinched down. So now everything is tight so far as I can tell. Now we'll get some pressure on the pedal and see if we have any more leaks.
I don't even know if he'll pick it up.
I don't think he's answering, bro.
Okay, well, I gotta call someone else. He might say something bad, but we'll see.
I'll figure out how to bleep if I have to.
He might think I'm like dying or something. That's what I'm calling. Hey, Meyer. Okay, first, watch your mouth. Second, okay. So my car, right? We made an advancement. What was the one thing I never had in 2.5 years?
Air conditioning?
Well, that, but
No, actually, that worked originally.
it did. But what else? It could go, but it could never what?
Stop.
Guess what it can do now?
Stop.
It can stop! After 2.5 years!
That's what started this whole thing.
Anyway, yeah,
So if you remember from the earlier videos, we were originally going to try and take it on that first power tour 2 years ago on with the 4-cylinder and the automatic, but I couldn't get the brakes working at all. So finally, I don't have the rears hooked up yet, as a little disclaimer, but right now we've got fronts, they hold pressure, nothing's leaking. It does actually stop the wheel from moving. We'll eventually bleed it out and all that, but for right now, we actually accomplished something despite ourselves. So we'll take the victory on this one.
Brakes!
So now that we made it whoa, we got to get back on making it go. So I need to double check, verify that the fuel pump is actually working, because again, I can't, this is the third fuel pump we've had on this. I can't get it to draw fuel from the tank. So again, I'm going to verify with this guy, make sure the pump itself is actually working. If it is, I got underneath, I was kind of taking a look at the lines. We'll get down there and see if we can figure out what's going down below. The first part of this is going to be real simple. I'm going to have them turn the key and fire up the fuel pump, and we'll see we have fuel in the can. We are connected. We're going to see if any fuel comes out. So go ahead and turn the key forward. Okay, turn the switch on. The primary switch is on. All right, turn on the fuel pump. Yep. All right, so we do have fuel flow. Go ahead and shut it down. All right, so we do have fuel flow out of the pump. So we know the pump itself is working well. So now I need to be able to crawl underneath and see if we can figure out what's going on with the fuel delivery. Now this particular one with the manual fuel pump back in the day had a return style fuel system. This one does not. But you see these lines here, there are 2 of them. Those are going to be the fuel feed, fuel return. Kicks up over the drive shaft. Whoop. Comes down, goes over the axle, and then goes into the tank. So I did take the rubber line off the tank for now. I want to make sure it wasn't collapsed or have any issues there, which it doesn't seem to be. That side's pretty clean actually. So what I need to do is see if there might be any pinhole leaks in that line itself, in the metal line. Because if there's a leak, it'd be like having a crack in a straw where you're just going to be sucking air. You're not actually getting the fluid through. So that's going to be the next test I have to try and do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have Austin introduce air at the engine side of this line. And then I'm going to put my finger over the end of it and see what changes. If it blocks completely, then we know we're good. If it doesn't change, or if it gets harder but it still presses air through, then we know we've got a leak in the line somewhere. And that being said, I can try and listen down here as well, because if we follow this around, we've actually got good metal right here, and this seems to be good all the way up to the engine. So there's a couple of spots here that might be of concern. I'm not sure how this is going to go through on the video. I apologize for those that are getting motion sick, but there are a couple spots that are a little bit rough. Looking at the tank itself, where it comes out, I do have fluid there, so I'm pretty secure in the idea that there's not a full blockage there, although there is a chance that like maybe a sock or something on the end of the at the end of the sending unit, I guess, could be plugged. So we'll take a look at that next. But for right now, we're going to see what we've got here. So, all right, Austin, go ahead. Woo!
Did you block it?
I did block it. Did it stop or did it just?
There might be a little leak. Right in?
Yep, let me get my finger out the way. Go ahead.
Tell me when you plug it.
Go ahead. Plugging. Off. Plugging.
I don't think there's a leak.
Okay. Well, I know you just back flushed all the fuel out of the lines.
No,
But
yeah.
yeah, because when you blew in that end, all the fuel that was in the lines just kicked all the way back here.
Okay.
All right, so what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna hook that fuel pump back up, and then I'm going to take the hose that I had on the pump into the gas can. I'm gonna hook it up back here, try taking it straight out of my fuel can. Same thing, if it comes out of the fuel can, then we know it's something in the tank. So one more step. All right, so we did the test, and it seems like we've got a blockage in the tank itself. So I'm gonna see if I can remove the sending unit and clear out any rust and debris that may be in there. For the moment, because we know in a separate can that the fuel pump is working and drawing, we're gonna see if we can't get a little more action out of the motor while we're standing right here. So give me just a second. Hook the throttle back up again in the janky way we have it for now. All right, turn the key, turn the ignition on, turn the fuel pump on. Fuel pump's not doing anything. Shouldn't be. It's on the charger. You have the key turned, and the main power is on, and the fuel pump's on.
First accessory one, yeah.
All right, now we get to figure that part out. All right, fuel pump was running now. We'll see. Get a little bit of action up here again. Were you messing with something back behind? I wonder if there's a wire in the back of the switch. Yep, right. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have to figure out what's going on there because the pump's on now. Do what you did again. Yeah. Leave it like that for a second.
Yeah, the fuel pump wiring is still
We've got nothing there. Go ahead and try. Make sure you're in neutral. All right. Try bumping it over. Yeah. Yep. Try it again. All right. Yep. We're going to have to let the battery charge a little bit. Go ahead and shut all that back down. We've still got a lot more work to do, but she's running. And another day on the Mustang. So where we're at today, we need to ensure that the engine's going to start running idle reliably. So for that, we need to make sure that we have fuel and we have battery. So battery's on the charger, working on that. Fuel, we're going to get to. Putting the power steering line on, the end that goes into the pump is fine. The end that goes into the rack, I can't get the thread in, so I'm looking at options there. For the tank, I did have to cut the tank out between the hardware and the straps. Down underneath, you can see the straps hanging. I'm gonna have to find new straps and finish cutting the old hardware out to get the tank working the way it needs to. As a part of that, we have the old tank, as I showed. We had a whole bunch of debris that came out. I'm going to take the vice grip way of cleaning out the tank. Let's bring it out here into the light. So I don't know if you can hear on camera. Probably not, it's really hard to hear. There's still a bunch of rust in there. So I'm going to take whatever I just set, some CLR and some water, and I've got a whole bunch of gravel. So I'm going to toss some rocks in there, slush it around, and between the CLR and the rocks, it should get in there and clean up whatever is hiding in there. So that's going to be my goal this morning. And then once I get all that done, I'll replumb. I won't be able to hang, but I'll replumb the fuel tank, reconnect the fuel pump, and see if we can get fuel coming through. Once I have that, then again, we can work on the tune of between the carburetor and the ignition. We have verified we've got operating front brakes. So at that point, we can technically go around the block with it just to see everything else is going. I need to put a little more fluid in the rear diff before I make that happen as well. So once we have that, I've got one more day with Austin here, and I really want him to be able to take it around the block before he goes. Once we get that done, we will finish up the exhaust, and we can get the rear brakes plumbed. And theoretically, at that point, it's ready for PowerTour. And then we've got some extras that we would like to do while we're in here. Again, we talked about putting in the transmission hump, getting some of the interior stuff done. We'd like to get the original radio wired up if we can. That's a really dirty window. That ain't working. So we want to get the original radio working if we can. If not, I do have a USB speaker that we can toss in the back seat and get some tunes in. And then again, a bunch of the interior stuff. You know, we've talked about doing some of the sail panels and all that, painting all that up. Maybe doing something like a suede headliner, you know, extra. But what we're really worried about is essentially finishing up the plumbing is where we're at now, and then a little bit of the electrical, and then we can get on the road. So we did find there is a whole bunch of crud in the bottom of that gas tank. So we're gonna do the old vice grip flush trick. Put a bunch of water and some pebbles in there, slosh it around, break up as much as we can. I did have to cut the fuel tank out. I could not get the hardware loose. So that is gonna be on the next week list. And then when we were test firing it, we did find we had a pretty good oil leak on both sides. We're gonna clean them up, try and put the other valve covers back on, just seal it up. I think the gaskets that we had were too thin for these other valve covers, so they weren't actually bottoming and squishing all the way. So if we want to use these valve covers, might have to go the cork style. But these being the original ones on it, we're going to go ahead and try and seal those up just while we're doing our little test fitting and more test runs. The other thing is we were able to get some fluid into the differential. Not enough to fill it. I ran out. I'll have to get a little bit more, but it's got a nice little fill plug there. So for the time being, what I might do is a remote mount on that fuel pump and throw a gas can in the hatch just to be able to do our engine test run. Definitely not going to be a permanent thing, but it'll be enough to at least get us around the road and see what the other systems are looking like. All right, I've never done this before. Let's see how it goes. I've got a gallon of water in. I want to do this a couple of times, so I'm only going to pour maybe a third, maybe go as much as a half in. All right, that is closer to a half. Let me go get a couple handfuls of rock. We'll throw it in there and start our slushing. I've got my mixture in here. At this point, it'll be really hard to do. My stand is at the other shop, so this will be really hard to do. I'm trying to film, but essentially I've got a gallon of water. I've got about half a bottle of CLR, and I've got a couple handfuls of rock. We're just gonna go around, have that kind of beat up the inside without getting too aggressive. And if you think like the old school rock tumbler, that's kind of the idea. We want to build a little bit of a slurry, get as much of that loose rust and stuff out that we can. We will eventually be replacing this tank, but for right now, we need to make what we have work. So that's where I'm at. And apparently I have a little bit of lost footage. So I ended up getting a bunch of the crud out of that fuel tank, a lot of the rust and debris that was up. Ended up doing the CLR treatment twice, and then I flushed it out about 3 or 4 times with water, just to get as much out as I could. Again, it's not going to be like new, but it should keep most of that from, you know, affecting anything as far as operation goes. We are going to have to source another set of fuel tank straps. Hopefully we can get something ordered and delivered in the next week or so. But from there, we ended up moving on to other parts of the vehicle. And we're a little bit closer. We did mess around with the timing, and I think we might have had 2 of the spark plug wires switched. Got all that done. It's actually running really smooth. On my parts vehicle, I did find the radiator overflow, so we've got that hooked up. I will eventually have to replace this hose because it's cracked, but for now we're hooked up. Still having issues with the fuel pump drawing from the tank itself, so we've got to mess with that a little bit. But we can run it off the can. We're running it pretty consistently off the can, so we might just take a lap with it like that. Do a la every show on TV right now and just kind of strap a can in here. Actually, we'll see. So for the time being, that can actually probably just sit right there, enough to get around the block once or twice. So we're filling up the differential. How are you doing with it? Is it starting to dribble out now?
Nope.
Nope. All right, so we're gonna keep working on filling up the differential. We've got to fill up the transmission. I've got, I don't know if it's gonna work or not as far as operational, but I do have a speedometer cable in the transmission to at least keep the fluid from leaking out of there. So yeah, finish filling the diff, finish filling the transmission, plug that in, put the tires on, and we can probably at least get this around the block. So we're super close. All right, we're just doing a couple of quick final checks. We want to make sure stuff isn't in the way to get burned. Hit the fan, hit the drive belts. So we redid some of the wiring, we redid some of the timing. So right now we're just going to make sure that it fires up again. And then we're going to put it in gear, make sure the clutch activates, make sure it goes into first. We're just going to tickle it forward, hit the brakes, make sure the brakes work, tickle it backwards, make sure we get into reverse. Just make sure all that works before we do anything remotely close to road stuff. All right. Remember, our throttle is just zip tied on for right now. So if at any point you feel like your throttle is no longer connected, slap the neutral, shut the car off.
Yep. My only concern is the wires in the way.
I'll just watch your clod hopper feet. Put that down. It's not connected to anything.
What down?
The parking brake lever.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
not
had it
connected.
up to press my arm off.
Oh, okay.
All right. On. Main on. Ready?
Yep. Clutch in. First. Slowly let the clutch out. There you go. Go a little further. All right, clutch in, hit the brake. You stay on the brake. Are you on the brake? Brake. Okay. Put it in reverse. Back in the first, steer out in the alleyway and just kind of slowly go down the alley. Turn. have a Mustang?
I do.
Alrighty. So after a long and productive week, we are closer than ever on the Mustang. As you saw, we finally got it driving. We still have some things to take care of. I got to get the power steering figured out. We've got to put some caps on the AC pump so that doesn't burn up until we figure out what we're doing with AC. I got to finish getting the brakes plumbed and figure out why we lost pressure, get all the lights working, possibly get the stereo working, and get the exhaust figured out. So we've got essentially 1 week left. It is Saturday now. We plan on heading out on Sunday to do pre-registration. So we do have the 1 week left of prep before PowerTour officially starts. Austin does have to head back tomorrow, but he will be back up on Saturday. So along with everything else I've got to get done next week, I've got to get this thing finished up. I would say we should be able to. We got really far on the last couple of days, as far as we have. Again, first time in 2 years he's been able to drive it, so super excited about that. But that's going to wrap up this series of videos for this week. And yeah, next one's going to start with PowerTour, and then I'll have one more video on the truck for sure for this season, and then we'll see where I'm at with editing for the rest of it. I did have kind of a switch up here recently, and we'll see if I get all the way through that. But until then, as always, if you guys feel comfortable doing so, give a like, give a subscribe, drop a comment, drop a question. I will answer and respond to those that I see. And otherwise, everybody, be safe, treat each other well, and we'll see you next time.